Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of Untethered. It's not just another episode either, it is the final episode for the first season, and we are here doing our politics or our political addition to Untethered. We usually go through and first we do like all the crazy stuff that I like. Like I did one about Moloch Ball, and then I did one about the dead popes, and the last one I forgot what that one was, but I know it was pretty good.
The
Um,
internet is the fraud
no,
scam. Yeah.
that's the other topic we did on that one. That after that one we did the internet's a scam, which it is. Mark Edworthy still doesn't believe me, but we did that one, and then we did current events, which Mark Edworthy doesn't believe that there is such thing as a current events.
I disagreed with you about your usage of what you meant by counter events.
Okay,
You were talking about show business, and I was talking about
that's it.
everything.
That's entertainment, dude. Entertainment actually could be considered a part of current events, but like,
Anything that's is counter events.
right. But then this one we have for politics. All three of the politics, I'm sure, is going to be interesting, and Mr. Robot's not here, so we're probably not going to get that much for arguing with Mark Edworthy. He seems to like arguing with Mr. Robot.
Let's say we've got completely different viewpoints on a lot of subjects.
So when when we do this, when we do have an outline that, or not an outline, but we have talking points that I pulled up because nobody else wants to do it. But
I give you a clue.
Mark Edworthy has brought up some talking points, or a talking point that I want to start out with because, needless to say, all of this is going to be saturated with Donald Trump today. Anybody who's been on the internet or television knows that Donald Trump just keeps he keeps delivering. You know what I mean? You can't find anybody on the media who freaking doesn't screw up so much that freaking like Donald Trump does. He just goes,
I can think of another person,
who?
Mr. Starmer.
Who's that?
Who's that? Oh, just a little person that is known as the Prime Minister of the United Kingdom of Great Britain and Northern Ireland.
Oh
Nobody
God.
important.
Oh God. Yeah. Okay. I get. Yeah. Just a little person. Cool. But yeah. I don't think so. I mean, he doesn't top freaking Donald Trump. Donald Trump is like the king of freaking let's start some crazy shit. You know what I mean? So so
Okay.
now before we start getting into all these other talking points, there was a topic that Mark Edworthy wanted to bring up, and I think that it would be appropriate to start out with that topic before we get into.
Actually, it was two topics.
Well, the first one was the important one that UK terminally ill adults is the one, and then
Oh, that one. Okay.
go
Both states, both of
into
them.
go
Yeah.
into oh yeah, and then the amendments. That's actually, yeah, that actually is two of them, I believe. So start out. Go ahead and pop it up there and talk about it. Well,
Okay. There's a bill happening in the UK related to assisted suicide. Um, Not dissimilar to the legislation that was passed in Canada. Um, this there was a third reading in the House of Commons on June 20th in relation to this, and it it passed that second reading by 313 by 291 votes. Um,
You there?
it
Hello, Pierre.
relates to yeah. Oh,
You're cutting out. Hold on a second, real quick. So go talk again. See if you sound good.
okay.
Okay.
Is this okay?
Yeah, you're sounding good.
Okay. Okay, I don't know what you missed there, but like I said, there was a bill in going through Parliament, the UK Parliament at the moment, in relation to assisted suicide, or to give it, the terminally ill adults bill. It's just gone through the second reading in the House of third reading actually, which doesn't make any sense to me because it's only on the second reading in the House of Lords. Generally, when these things happen, it will go through the first reading in the House of Commons, then get past the House of Lords, then it'll go through the first reading, then any amendments suggested goes back to the House of Commons, second reading, House of Lords, second reading, any amendments, then third reading in the House of Commons, third reading in the House of Lords. But for some reason, this is messed up a bit, where there's been a third reading in the House of Commons, and it's on the second reading in the House of Lords. But in effect, what allows
You're starting to break up again.
aid. No, it allows for the states to aid in the suicide or the death or the suicide of a individual.
Okay.
Whilst I understand, whilst I appreciate this mainly is framed as relating to people that are terminally ill. There's a lot of discussion about issues in relation, as we've seen in Canada, about people who are depressed or are just having an off day, wanting to end their lives. This raises a lot of ethical questions.
Now, do you want me to read this for you so that we?
Please do.
Okay.
Please
So
do.
now the introduction for this is the Terminally Ill Adults End of Life Bill. The bill would allow someone who is terminally ill to ask a medical professional for help and receive this help to end their own life. In the bill, a terminally ill person is someone who is expected to die within 6 months from an illness or disease that cannot be cured. The person will need to be aged over 18, living in England or Wales, registered with a general practitioner (GP). They will need to be able, that is, have the capacity to make this decision. There are several steps that must be taken to make sure the person is sure that they want to end their own life, has made this decision voluntarily, has not been pressured into making it. Now, the bill has a number of safety measures to help to ensure that the person is sure that they want to end their own life. The bill is a private member's bill. This means it is being led by a member of Parliament, in this case, Kim Ledbetter, MP. The government does not have a position on assisted dying. The bill was recently debated in the House of Commons. This document sets out how an assisted dying service may affect different groups of people if this bill becomes law. That's
At the moment, it's obviously still in draft, and the fear is that it will be watered down.
for,
So the sort of the point about being terminally ill might be redefined.
yeah. And for me, I also see it as like a gateway. First, it's introduced, and if it's accepted, it'll be accepted for the terminally ill. But if it's like it is here in the United States, it can be used as a precedence to go further with it.
Yeah, we've seen that this happening in Canada.
Yeah.
Um, yeah.
It reminds me of a case we had here. I mentioned to you in chat earlier this week about a young lady that voluntarily killed herself. It wasn't a short term, like 6 months, but she had a illness that was real bad. I believe it was in Oregon, and she had her life ended, and the state of Oregon allowed it. It's pretty disturbing that they're doing that. Like she 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 could have had a chance of freaking living a life. It would have been hard on her, and she would have had to overcome a lot of bad things. But um,
Yeah, I can understand that. I can appreciate that. If you're terminally ill and you're in a lot of pain, then that a reasonable argument. But again, I can see it watered down. And I don't know if you remember from, I think it was 2000, the old shipment case in the UK.
I didn't hear a word you said. You started breaking up.
Okay. I don't know if you remember the old shipment case back in the UK in, I think, 2004.
No.
Could have been later. This was related to a a GP, a general practitioner, so a doctor in fact, community doctor, actually given lethal injections of dimorphophine between 1995 and 1998 to 15 women
Yeah.
illegally.
hmm I mean, we,
Lives.
we had the same situation with Dr. Kevorkian. I mean, all of a sudden, it's like we go from it being illegal and Dr. Kevorkian getting put in prison to freaking, hey, we're just gonna start allowing doctors to do this stuff. You know what I mean? It's kind of crazy when you look at it. Like,
Actually, incorrect. It was 2000, January 31st, 2000. He was found guilty. But yeah,
mhm. It could have been around the same time with Kevorkian because I know he ended up getting arrested and he was sentenced to prison. I don't know if he's even still alive. He could possibly be dead, but that's what it.
just checking Wikipedia. How age 50.
Now, Svetlana said her daughter and husband are down for a nap. If she came in, her voice would probably wake them. So I,
Yeah.
I'm glad that you are in chat though, uh, Svetlana. Um, I just wanted to open or make an offer to you to let you know you're always welcome if you want in. Okay, so but yeah, that that right there is something that really was disturbing to me. I actually talked about it. I think the girl this happened maybe about 5 years ago, 5 or 6 years ago.
Yeah.
Um, it really stood out to me as a serious issue. If this goes into a lot of the crazy eugenics shit. You know what I mean? This is the stuff that you don't like to hear whenever I start talking about sci-fi crap. You know what I mean? And
Mm.
I know you don't like hearing me talk about it, but freaking it 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 does have a what's that name? Soylent Green or something like that.
Yeah. I mentioned
Soylent
it.
Green.
You actually criticised me for
Well, no,
mentioning the film.
I didn't criticize you.
Well,
I agreed with you on it because, but it's like, oh no, that's horrible, dude. Freaking.
mm,
But it's true, and this kind of dives into that stuff. You know what I'm saying? It really does. Like, if it starts here with this, what's it going to lead into later on where people can just voluntarily take their lives and it's okay? You know what I mean?
mm.
It's kind of disturbing to me, is what it is. Now, down at the bottom it says this bill is a private member's bill. What exactly does that mean in England?
It just means that it's technically not government policy to bring the bill in. It's being brought in by a single MP.
Okay, so
And individual MPs have got the right to vote on it in their own in their own view, and there's no governmental whips there to tell them which way to vote.
you guys have reps that have to that dictate to
Well, let's say advise, quote unquote.
push them around, smack them a little bit.
Sort of, well, even it's sort of, well, if you don't vote this way, you may lose your seat next in the next cabinet reshuffle or something.
Give them a swift kick in the pants and say, "Look here,
Yeah.
young man, we're in charge here. You just sit there and look pretty and don't say nothing, or you say something, but you say what I tell you to say, basically."
Or you vote how I want you to vote.
Mm-hmm.
But because it's a private member's bill, it is for each minister to decide on their own.
Now I was able to get elements up, so I will keep an eye out for Mr. Robot if he comes in. Um,
Yeah.
I doubt if he does though. This is getting to a level where he can't keep up. You know what I'm saying? We're getting ready to bust into some serious shit now, and
Notice that he doesn't really like these political streams himself.
well, he seemed to enjoy it for the last 2 or 3 times. He loves to
Well,
argue with you.
okay.
I think the only person he loves to argue with more than you, or just as much as you, is with Tan. Tan and him sat all night long debating over freaking religion.
Yeah, notice the sort of blood and flesh argument. I saw
Yeah,
that when I woke up this morning, actually.
he would probably enjoy this conversation because he seemed to enjoy that blood and flesh with the Catholic Church thing. You know what I mean? He just ate that up like it was freaking like something that was worth freaking talking about. So I, uh,
Mm.
I find it kind of disturbing and alarming that people get into that kind of discussion. You know what I'm saying? Like, cause I remember the old stories about Christianity being a blood cult. You know what I mean? And a lot of people don't really understand that that was accusations that were brought against the Christians by the Jews back in the day. You know what I mean? And
It also goes back to the Last Supper, doesn't it?
yeah,
Where it's Jesus was meant to say, "Eat this bread; it represents my flesh. Drink this wine; it represents my blood."
right. Now, after that, we're going to have to discuss this because this is This is the
Okay, before we start on that, because the Abortion Act or the Abortion Bill fits
oh,
nicely in the last subject.
you were talking about the abortion bill. I thought that it
Yeah.
was one and the same. I didn't.
Oh, sorry, Abortion Act. Sorry, it's already been passed,
No,
or the amendment too.
let me find a link and I'll put that up in the background too, so that we'll
Oh,
have that actually up. So you go ahead and start talking, and I will find it. I'm gonna stop sharing and pull that up.
okay, under an 1891 Act. I can't remember the name of the act. It was made illegal for non non-medical or for abortion by non professional medical assistance. In 1967, under the Abortion Act, UK Abortion Act, it was made. It was determined that an abortion, a UK abortion, could not be carried out any time beyond that of 24 weeks after digestion, conceivement, um, which is still very sort of what's the word I'm looking for? Fairly
Controversial.
liberal because other countries, especially countries like France, have a at or have acts that make it illegal after 13 weeks. But on where was it? I think on June 17th, June 16th, UK MPs voted to change the 1967 Act to allow abortions to be provided. Actually, yeah, I'm looking at the same. Sorry. Allow for abortions to be carried out up to the birth of the child, or technically under UK law, a entity is not represented as a child until it's born.
Yeah,
Before it's born, it is still considered as a fetus.
and see
Um,
that was something that they brought up on Censorship Sucks that I did hear about, and like here in the United States, the thing is, it's like you can't get abortions after a certain amount of time.
mm,
You know what I
mm.
mean? And I think that that's pretty sick when you look at it, because like they're talking about all the way up to the ninth month wanting to allow this to take place.
No,
So
we're talking about
that
minutes before
right,
possible birth. Major issue here is up to the 24 weeks, then the entity can be removed quite easily. I'm not absolutely sure the procedure, but it can be flushed out within the system. At beyond that, when the entity is fully formed, then the only way to remove it is in reality, is to rip it apart.
yeah,
You don't
that's
think that's grotesque? I don't know
yeah,
what is.
that's the
Yeah.
that's the final phase where they take a tube and they stick it up the vaginal opening, and then they just grind it all up into little bitty pieces down a tube that the device is hooked to. It just sucks it all out and grinds it up as it goes. Pretty gruesome, and I think that it's appropriate for me to say that so that people understand what's taking place when you go through. This is the third trimester part of abortion, and this is something that a lot of people here in the United States has fought against taking place because that's clearly the time frame where the baby has human life. You know, they've always argued about, you know,
Well, I'm trying to not call it a baby at that
well
point because again, UK law defines a baby as a being after the point of birth.
I mean, you know, they can go ahead and do that. I'm here in the United
Yeah,
States.
yeah, yeah, yeah,
I'm gonna
yeah,
call it a
yeah,
baby. And even if they have the same thing here in the United States, I'm gonna call it a baby too because, like I said,
yeah. Arguably, after 24 weeks, it is a sentence being.
Mhm.
So yeah, I don't know. Considering that both the terminal ill bill is gone through, and it was through its second stage on the 20th, and the um, the abortion rules changed on the 17th. It raises the question about if this government, if this, oh well, if the MPs in Parliament are human, are feeling, yeah, are not quotex in themselves.
Right here it says that abortion providers have reported receiving 100 requests for medical records from police officers in relation to suspected abortion offenses in the past 5 years. Last year's abortion provider MSI told the BBC it was aware of 60 criminal inquiries in England and Wales since 2018 compared to almost zero before that. Uh,
If I understand, the abortion was only affect England and Wales, and the terminal ill bill, I think. Just okay. I'll have to have a look at the data, but it affects both England, Wales, and Scotland. I'm not sure about Northern Ireland.
also goes on to say 6 women have appeared in court in England charged with ending or attempting to end their own pregnancy outside abortion law in the past 3 years. Dr. Jonathan Lord, medical director of MSI, said the organization believes the unprecedented number of women being investigated could be linked to the police's increased awareness of the availability of the pills by post scheme. And that could, I have no idea what pills by post scheme means because English people talk funny. So,
I'm not sure what you mean. You talk about the pregnancy
yeah,
pill, post scheme.
yeah. They said specifically, uh, let me see, Dr. Jonathan Lord, medical director of MSI, said the organization believes the unprecedented number of women being investigated could be linked to the police's increased awareness of the availability of the pills by post scheme.
I'm not sure.
Yeah. Now, Now, Tanya Antoniazzi's amendment is what it is. Tanya Antoniazzi is the person that you're looking for, ladies and gentlemen, in England. Hunt her down and beat her profusely until she is knocked out
Actually,
or close
no,
to
no,
dead.
no, 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 no. I did not. I did not
Hunt her down, ladies and
endorse
gentlemen.
any violence at all.
Okay, well, let me kind of break it down to you. Like, you know, when they came out with vaccines in England, and
Uh,
they were
sorry,
back in like the 1800s. They were
Okay.
horrible and they were torturous, and some of them actually killed people. So what would happen is there would be a mob action that took place where they would grab these freaking doctors, drag them out into the street, and kill them, dude. They would beat them profusely and burn their bodies in the street. They did that with
Again, I
surgeons
do
too.
not endorse such actions.
Okay. Now Tony and Tanya Antoniazzi's amendment aims to prevent women from being investigated, arrested, prosecuted, or imprisoned for terminating their own pregnancies. She has argued that the investigations are dehumanizing and prolonged, and the women forced to endure them are often extraordinarily vulnerable. She said those investigated can be victims of domestic abuse and violence, human trafficking, and sex exploitation, or women who have given birth prematurely.
But isn't that the point of a court case to ascertain that?
Well, you know, this goes back to what I was talking about. Like, they want to bring in human trafficking and sexual exploitation. Now, these liberals or labor
Remember,
groups.
that doesn't happen all the time. She's suggesting that it seems like he's alluding to stating that that is a common cause, and I
Mhm.
question that.
Well, the thing is what I'm finding, especially in California, they're trying to freaking connect human trafficking with sexual exploitation. Because if they can do that, then they can make freaking laws a lot harsher on people who are prostitutes and people who are johns that for prostitutes. They can say that they're human traffickers when in reality they're just whores that are freaking trying to make a buck. You know what I'm saying? And that's the one thing that I've actually seen when it comes to that whole thing.
Again,
And that
again, we shouldn't make state that this is a rule or that's a rule because in some cases human trafficking does happen.
no, that's real. Those are real sexual trafficking incidents that take place. Okay. And I do agree with you on that. That those do take place, but these are women who are abducted from their freaking hotels, or they're abducted from their place of living, or some situation like that, and they're forced into a world of sexual exploitation. That's real sex trafficking, okay? And there's women of all ages that are being done that way. You know what I mean? Like they but that's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about prostitutes, you know what I'm saying, that are actually out there and they're prostitutes and that's all they are. They've never been abducted and forced into a life of sex. You know what I mean? They're trying to link that up with human trafficking as well. And you're right.
But, but even in those cases, those individuals would be taking the pill, would and if necessary, would abort the fetus within the due time.
And see, that's another thing too that I have a different issue with. It's like you you know, you're not going to hear the statistics on how many prostitutes are using abortion as a form of birth control.
Again, collecting that data is going to be difficult, I would imagine.
Well, you know it's happening. Okay,
Yeah, but
you
collecting actual figures, collecting numbers is going to be not overly easy.
right. So I mean, it's like that. That's the thing. And they've been talking about that for years. They've been saying that like if you let freaking this go as far as what they want it to go, then that's what abortion clinics are basically going to be. You know, a woman can go and have sex as much as she wants, Then when she gets pregnant, she can be like, oh, well, whatever. She'll go down to the local freaking abortion clinic and just have it taken care of. And she can do it multiple times. You know, it's like,
But again, up to a certain point, the entity is still a fetus and not a sentient being. Therefore, the argument is if it's not a sentient being, then is there a major issue?
well, do you find it a major issue that your tax-paying money is freaking allowing prostitutes to freaking go in and out of abortion clinics and freaking aborting fetuses at any point in time that they want? I mean, you know that's whose money's being used to do this, right?
Again, in the UK, there's the NHS that offers the service, but there's also private clinics that offer the service as well. So
And who are they getting funded by?
uh, that would be it's a private customer, so it'd be customer client professional relationship.
Well, I'm pretty sure that a prostitute having sex with multiple men and getting pregnant isn't going to a private abortion clinic.
Well, again, speculation that there probably would be a number that would be used in the NHS, the National Health Service.
But what do you think? Do you think that freaking that is a good situation or something that at least needs to be discussed about it? Because it's like that's the one thing that they always do. She now don't get me wrong. If a woman's been raped, okay, and things of that nature, if she does it maybe in the early stages, I could understand that. But like later on in the stages, no, that's uncalled for. And even then, she still has the option of adopting out. Said things of that nature because the situation is pretty serious. Um,
I've always argued the 1967 Act, as was more than suitable up to the 24-week point. Was again, it is much more liberal than other countries, especially in Europe. Like I said, like I mentioned, France's 13 weeks rule. But yeah, and on the point of the NHS is going plowing through what was it, £160 billion per year. Um, so money's being wasted in the NHS left, right, and centre anyway. So a few abortions isn't going to do that. Isn't going to dent that budget that or that amount that much.
well, I mean, you're starting to sound like a liberal, like a
I'm looking
labor
at it from a.
a Labor Party member.
I'm looking at it from a fiscal. I'm looking at that argument from just a solely fiscal argument.
Sounds pretty labor.
No Labour would just say chuck more money at the NHS,
Yeah.
and they have done, and they well both um, Labour and the Conservative Party have been stating this every year since I've been alive. So yeah, chuck more money every year. The NHS needs more money, and
Yeah.
the budget's risen, and the top-down sort of bureaucratic sort of nature of the NHS has been, yeah, a lot of waste.
Now, Tanya Antoniazzi goes on to say the reality is that no woman wakes up 24 weeks pregnant or more and suddenly decides to end their own pregnancy outside a hospital or clinic. But some women in desperate circumstances make choices that many of us would struggle to understand. What they need is compassion and care, not the threat of criminal prosecution.
think of the then you're basing the entire victimhood progressive liberal argument, aren't you? You're making the everybody's a victim argument. Damn their actions, damn the consequences. They're just victims.
Well, I mean, let's take a look at the facts, though. Okay, she made the statement. The reality is that no woman wakes up 24 weeks pregnant. Well, that's true.
That's right.
So the point of it is why is it freaking she was fine with carrying that baby up until 24 weeks of pregnancy and then decided, hey, I want to get an abortion. Doesn't make sense.
Unless something seriously changes in life in a very short period of time.
Let's say her supposed abusive boyfriend or rapist, freaking male or whoever it was that was supposed to be just viciously victimized her, freaking decided to up and leave and not give her any kind of support, you know?
As an example. Yeah, but even in the UK, we've got some very strict child support legislation.
You know. Well, I mean, I'm when it comes to a lot of this stuff, especially in Ireland, I've seen the harsh treatments that's been given to men when it comes to those laws, and it's like at one point a man wasn't even allowed to have children until if he didn't have a woman in the house. You know, we
You've got to, or you, if you're going to bring in Ireland into this matter, irrelevant if it's Republic of or Northern Ireland, you've got to consider the sort of theologic argument, because the Irish are, generally speaking, there's a large, large Roman Catholic community there. I
yeah.
don't know why I use the term community in this point. Whereas in Britain or in the rest of the UK, it's more Anglo Christian.
Right. Well, even with that, from what we did with our first season of Roger's Real Time Talk Show, if you'd remember, we went through the whole thing about Ireland, and they actually had these organizations that were supposed to be taking care of children that were taken away from their freaking family, and all of them were freaking religious oriented,
Mm.
and they also their patron was the Queen or King of England.
So you're talking about Northern Ireland rather than Ireland. Remember,
Yeah,
Ireland's two countries.
yeah, I know. Well, we
But again, there's the sort of Roman Catholic mindset
hmm
there.
right, and they were more Catholic and oriented, but their patron was the king and or queen of England. It was a while back when we did it, but
I vaguely remember her.
yeah, it is interesting though.
Mm.
Now, her amendment would maintain punishment for medical professionals and violent partners who end a pregnancy outside of the existing law. Um, it has received the backing of 176 MPs in the main abortion providers.
Actually, the MP vote I did pick up just now, and I can't remember. Okay, no, sorry. I was thinking about the terminal ill bill. Um, sorry, yeah. Put the amendment to the crime and policing bill, which was passed by a majority of 242 votes.
240 votes. So cool. It went.
42 to 42.
So it's gone up. So that means
Yeah.
you guys are going to have more harsher laws when it comes to the punishment of medical professionals and violent partners, but it's going to make it to where it's easier for women to have abortions without being uh, chastised by the.
Yeah, but the argument is if the bill goes through, oh, sorry. Oh, yeah, the act has already gone through. Sorry, I'm thinking of the other one. The act has the amendment has gone through, so it is based upon the new wording of the act,
Uh,
the 1960s, the amendment to the 1967 Act. Therefore, in reality, if there won't be any criminal prosecutions because the amendment states right up to the birth.
Now, the Society for Protection of Unborn Children has said that the amendment is an extreme and dangerous proposal that would effectively decriminalize abortion.
Indeed, which is in reality, yes, yeah.
Okay, so now we come to Stella Creasy's amendment different. It says, how is Stella Creasy's amendment different? Do you know anything about Stella Creasy?
I've heard that, but I've not done any real research into it.
Stella Creasy has put forward a rival amendment which would enshrine abortion access as a human right and also aims to prevent women who have terminated their own pregnancies from being investigated. Creasy has said her amendment goes further than her Labor colleagues' proposal by offering protection to all those involved in ensuring that women can access safe and legal abortions.
Okay, just on the point, what date is that article?
This article is on the 15th, I believe. Let's see.
Okay, so it's before the amendment was voted
No,
upon,
June
which
16th.
was the 17th. In effect, the legalization of abortion up to birth has already been completed because of the amendment, so
Mhm.
which makes her argument sort of null and void.
Now, Creasy has argued that Antoniazzi's amendment would not stop the authorities investigating the partners of people who had an abortion or the medics who provided the abortions, and it would not prevent demands for women to give evidence as part of the process. Now, I believe that they should give evidence as part of the process. If you know what I'm saying, I don't agree with her. Like she thinks that that should be prevented, but I believe
Okay,
that
my understanding of the amendment is that it is now legal to actually abort right up to the point of of giving birth, and therefore there is no investigation after the fact
oh,
because the abortion is done technically because of the amendment as legally.
now do they have to do they have to give reasons for why they have to why they want
As
the
far as I'm aware, no.
okay so that would be something to find out which one actually got voted in, Creasy's or what's her face, Antoniazzi's. I hate that name. It's hard to say.
Yeah, very
Antonia's.
good thing.
She must be an Italian. I mean,
Yeah, I was just thinking that.
so um, if like it says right here, abortions, no medics who provide the abortions, and it would not prevent demands for women to give evidence. as a part of the process. And it that right there is what really stands out to
If
me.
I can see if there's mitigating circumstances, such as the sort of abuse argument that he made, then it could be used as part of a further investigation into the abuse. But on its own, I cannot see any justifiable reasons under using the new amendment why it would be investigated further.
Well, I do have to give your guys' freaking pregnancy advisory service credits on this though, because like the last paragraph for what they say is it's backed by 108 MPs, but not abortion providers. Rachel Clark from the British Pregnancy Advisory Service has said Creasy's amendment is not the right way to achieve generational change, which that goes back to what I was talking about with like prostitutes, you know, going out, getting johns, having sex, getting pregnant, coming back and getting aborted. And, you know what I'm saying? Um, I believe here in the United States they give them a certain amount of time or a certain amount of times they can have abortions, but I'm not sure on that one.
Wasn't it only 3, 4 years ago that there was a lot of argument in the US in relation to extending or doing virtually the same as we have done in the last week or so.
I don't really know, to be honest with you.
In the last 2 weeks, sorry. Um, yeah, I remember there was an entire large argument back. Must have been 2020 now, 2019, 2020 in the US in relation to this,
Now,
or in relation to similar.
Now, speaking to Radio 4's Today program last week, Ms. Clark said abortion law is incredibly complex, adding, it is essential that any huge changes to abortion law is properly considered. The Society for Protection of Unborn Children has described Creasy's amendment as even more extreme than the Antoniazzi's, adding there is no way to bring an abusive partner who causes the death of an unborn baby to justice.
Actually, it's the Tonia amendment that was included in the crime and policing bill. So it was the Tonia amendment that was passed by 242 votes.
This Creasy one is just way too crazy.
Yeah.
Because it's saying that frickin' these women don't have to have any kind of accountability for their actions. You know what I mean? And don't get, you know, accountability for your actions, especially when it comes to abortion, is important. You know what I mean? Because these women, they can try to talk all they want, but you know the shit fucks with their heads years later. You know what I mean? So they need to be prepared to understand that once this happens, it's going to screw you up in the head. You know?
Yeah, I can think of a few examples of this myself that I'm aware of
At least they need,
within my personal circle. But yeah,
you know, they need time to really stop and frickin' take a moment to breathe before they decide to go stomping off to the abortion clinic. You know what I mean?
mm,
I think that's pretty freaking crazy that they even do that. So, interesting topic. Very,
mm,
very interesting that England is just so wretched and not really good at
England and Wales,
it.
as far as this is concerned, anyway. Yeah.
Yeah. Now, I am going to drop that on the sharing thing. That all went through right, didn't it? Like
Mm,
on
what do you
the
mean?
it shared on the screen, didn't it? Because I was
Yeah, 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 yeah. I it appeared, even though I can't read it from here because it's way over there. Screen, the screen I'm looking at is just in front of my camera or behind my camera is what 5 foot away from me. But yeah,
I wanted to make sure because I've been trying to keep it up on both this and on OBS. So
mm,
um,
yeah, yeah. No, it's okay. It's fine.
okay, let me find out what the next one is.
You're Irish, then I believe.
Yeah, yeah.
Moving on.
Gotta make sure that it's all set up and good to go. Is that
Yeah.
there? We go. We got it set up there. I'm coordinating with Rumble as well as OBS to the other channels. So whenever I do it, I want to make sure everybody can see what we're going through. Now,
Mm.
according to what I came across, new IRA says it remains active in Eastern message and issues threats to state collaborators. That would be people that were like uh, Mark Edworthy, who collaborates with the government, and says that law and order and freaking terms of services are important. So on so this was an interesting thing that I pulled up because we had recently been talking. Oh, we've actually brought up the IRA quite a bit. Not
The
really.
Irish Republic Army, or
Yeah,
Republican Army. Yeah.
not quite a bit really. It keeps popping up. You know what I mean? Whenever we have conversations. So um, I found out about 2 weeks ago that this had taken place, and this is an article from April the 20th, 2005, and it is coming from Northern Ireland.
2025.
Right, and it
No, not 2005. That's
2025.
20 odd years ago.
Sorry about that. But the new IRA says it remains active in Easter message and issues threats to state collaborators. Statement comes as speculation grows about end of armed campaign. Now, the new IRA has said it remains active and has issued a threat to people it has branded as state collaborators. Now, the Easter statement from the Republican parliamentary group comes amid ongoing speculation about its future direction and whether it is prepared to end its armed campaign. The dissident group emerged in 2012 when the real IRA, independent Republicans, and members of Republican Action Against Drugs merged. Now, the group's last significant action is thought to have been a gun attack carried out on retired PSNI officer John Caldwell at a sports complex near Omagh, or Homage, however you say that. You would
Sorry, PS9? Oh, please, sorry, this is Northern Ireland. Okay.
um, Using a recognized code word, the new IRA issued a message to those it said seek to divide or discredit it. The cause of Irish freedom, us, just, and history will vindicate those who stand firm, the statement said. Now, the Irish Republic Army reaffirms its unwavering commitment to the full establishment of a 32 county socialist republic. British rule in any form, whether military, political, or economic, is illegitimate and will never be accepted. The statement said the organization continues to remain active. The British presence in Ireland is sustained not by consent but by force, and this resistance not only remains justified but necessary, it said. The IRA remains active, resolute, and unyielding. The group also issued a chilling warning. While others have chosen the path of compromise and surrender, we continue to assert the right of the Irish people to resist occupation by all means at our disposal, he said. We issue a clear warning to those who collaborate with the forces of occupation. There are consequences for those who act against the interests of the Republic. Let it be known that our patience is not without limit, and our silence should not be mistaken uh, for inactivity. SDLP Policing Board and Assembly member Mark H. Durkin said urging the group to adopt peaceful means. While everyone is entitled to their own ideological outlook, it is time to wise up with the warnings and time to choose a peaceful political path to pursue their objectives, he said. All violence does is create victims and has no place in politics today. The latest statement comes as hardline political, well, as hardline Republicans prepare to hold an Easter raising commemoration in Derry on Monday. The parade, which has been marked sensitive, has been organized by the National Republic Commemoration Committee, the NRCC, which arranges events on behalf of anti-agreement party Saorid, formed in 2016. Saorid has the support new IRA prisoners. That doesn't even make sense. Formed in 2016, Saorid has the support new IRA prisoners. A similar commemoration in 2022 was led by a masked color party and included men and women dressed in combat gear. Conditions imposed by the parade's commission include that no paramilitary-style clothing is to be worn and that flags, bannerets, and symbols related to a proscribed organization shall in no circumstances be displayed. Mr. Durkin appealed to people to come to Derry and enjoy the event and please aid by the. No, wait. Mr. Durkin appealed to people to come to Derry and enjoy the event and please abide by the conditions set out by the parade's commission. Now, reading that, the only thing that really stands out to me that I really don't like, there's two things. They call themselves Republicans, okay? And they aren't Republicans. They are dirty, freaking piece of shit National Socialists who freaking need to shut their fucking mouth and stop stealing freaking the name Republican. Okay, a Republican is a freaking Republican, not a freaking socialist fucking bastard. Keep your fucking mouth shut.
Well, you can be Republic and Socialist at the same time.
No, you can't.
Yeah, you can.
Mm-mm.
Socialism is a more. The Soviet Union was a republic.
They were republics. They weren't freaking socialists.
Well, they
That's what
were
the Soviet.
communist.
That's what the socialists or the communists did too. Like you got now it's they called themselves a republic, which freaking a republic is freaking built on constitutional laws, dude. Freaking they. I mean,
Uh, Germany between 1922, 28 and 1945 was a republic, or still is a republic, but it had an extreme form of socialism.
no. Well, socialism. Yeah, I guess you could say it was pretty rough. But even there, even
Pretty well.
yeah. Well,
Only
you're
favour of the
talking about
time.
the Weimar Republic, though. That's that's not as bad as the freaking the Nazi
Well, yeah, I'm talking
era.
about the rise of a well-known Austrian.
Well, I mean, it is pretty freaking funny when you hear it, but actually, you can't compare the Weimar Republic to freaking the Nazi regime. You know what I'm saying?
Well, yeah. So this that's why I specified that date. This was after the Weimar Republic sort of collapsed.
Now,
This was the introduction of the NDSAP.
well, you know, I mean, I guess you could have your opinions on that because if you go even further back, you look at the Italians with the what was Florence, I believe it was the first republic actually in the Italian government, and that was after the fall of Rome. Was
Yeah.
I believe it was Florence.
Yeah, Florence or Phoenicia, Venice.
It could be.
Not sure. It could be one or the other.
Hmm.
Um, um, a couple of things struck me about this report. I did just before we came on stream. I did have a quick search on YouTube for any information about this, and both the mainstream media, so both the BBC, Sky, Talk TV stroke radio, and GB News has not run any stories on this.
Yeah, I
Has
know.
not run any stories in relation to the IRA for at least 2 years.
Hmm.
The sort of more popular or the alternative news that commentators I tend to listen to, so Lotus Eaters, Mara 2C TV, and Jeff Taylor have also not mentioned anything about this. So really, I think this is just a flash in the pan, not relevant story in effect. Um,
I
again,
think you're brainwashed by the English. This has been kept out of the media, especially with the ones you
yes,
support,
this is why I look at the alternative
because they're banning.
news as well.
They want to.
Commentator.
They don't want this in their news. They want
Yeah,
it.
but the alternative, the out news, um, would have at least mentioned this at some point.
I doubt it.
Um,
I doubt it.
no, I can imagine people like 2C would be all over this.
I
Um,
and to be honest, I mean, we come out with a lot of shit that most people don't even freaking talk about first. Like when I was talking about before about the Actors Guild and when it came to AI and how freaking AI was freaking they were suing the people over freaking their voices with the Actors Guild.
yeah,
You
yeah.
know, we're the first ones that mentioned that, and it's like freaking. We've actually come up with different topics too that nobody, and this is probably one of them, to be
I think
honest.
actually, both Jeff Taylor and the Lotus Eaters have talked about this that subject before as well.
Now,
Um,
I would also like to point out that freaking this actually relates to a lot of shit that's going on over there because the next thing that I wanted to freaking talk about was the Northern Ireland riots that escalated.
Okay,
You see?
you carry on with that because I've got a point that sort of ties into both this and that.
Okay.
But yeah, carry on.
Oh, go ahead. No, you keep on going.
Oh,
Let's do
no,
it.
really. You're talking about the riots in relation to race and issues, in effect, issues of immigration. And as we know, we've in the UK, much like the US, we've got a serious issue with immigration at this present moment.
Hmm.
Arguably also in the UK because of the size of our country and the um, issues of infrastructure and the amount of boats that's coming across from France. Um, so yeah, it's. I would argue that um, the new IRA, as they want to call themselves, which has got nothing to do with anything to do with the Irish Republican Army, which was aided and abetted by Sinn Féin, which is a legitimate political entity now. But
This is
the
actually the new IRA.
yeah, which has got no ties to no official ties to the Irish Republican Army, at least. Let's just say that. But in reality, I would argue that a lot of this is related to the um, issues of immigration and sort of the more cultural unrest that is
Well,
happening
we
in
brought
the
it
UK.
up. We brought it up before about you guys' politics being overran by freaking white nationalists.
I disagree with you on that point.
I asked you point blank about a couple of these guys, man, who are well known with when it comes to freaking being white nationalists, especially one of the co-founders of freaking Rebel Radio. Okay, and this is something that's happening in freaking the UK rapidly, and it's happening actually quite a bit. Where these guys are freaking actually. They started out and everybody made them out to be like a joke because they were freaking preaching white nationalist propaganda. But the truth of the matter
Okay.
is, a lot of them has actually gotten farther up in politics and the media than what they were back when they started.
Yeah, but in reality, they are just very sort of minor figures because there's still the liberal context of calling everybody racist in this country. Anybody who disagrees with progressive liberalism is a racist for some
Well, I mean, that
reason.
seems to be everybody's that they want to
But
keep
you're
brain
having the same
they want.
problems in the US, aren't you?
Yes, it's everywhere.
Um,
Now, my whole point is like everybody is like jumping on this. Well, they keep calling us Nazis. Why do you think they fucking keep calling you Nazis? Because you are a fucking Nazi, dude. You,
bullshit.
you
It
know,
is just an easy get out. Oh, you disagree with progressive liberalism,
no,
therefore
no,
you
no,
must be a
no,
Nazi.
no,
A misuse of the whole term as well,
no.
um,
It's
from
okay.
an
Look,
historical point of view.
look. We have people freaking that are pissed off talking shit about freaking immigrants coming to their country. Okay, that right there is freaking, and they aren't just pissed off and talking shit. They want to freaking kill them. They want to cause violence over it.
Okay, again, I disagree with the violence thing, but again, how long can you do you think a country could survive, especially a country the size of the United Kingdom, survive with unfettered immigration?
You've had frickin' that for thousands of years.
Unfettered?
You've got
We've
the
seen more
you've got
immigration
wells,
within last since the Blair Rights movement in
dude.
1997.
You guys
Um,
have wells,
that we've
okay,
seen
for that.
within 1,000 years,
No,
in effect, if you have looked at numbers.
you've got wells because of that, okay? That's the whole reason why wells even exist is because of freaking immigrants that came over and invaded your freaking country, dude, and made a home for themselves. So now you have the freaking wells sitting right there between Ireland and England, okay?
Okay, if you want to make that argument, then let's go all the way back to the Romans. Let's go back to the Celts and the Gauls.
Yeah, and let's go back to
Um,
let's go back to the Vikings who invaded your freaking
well, yeah.
country,
Oh, well, this is
Ireland.
later on. I'm talking about even earlier. I'm talking
Yeah.
about 4th century AD.
Well, I mean, look at all that. I mean, these were people that freaking came into your country, and now they're a part of your society. I mean, it's like
Yeah.
England has always had that going on.
Yes, but in we are seeing at the moment a lot of what can only be really called as ghettoization. You having cultures just coming in, not appreciating the traditions or the code or the culture of, I don't want to say native, but of those people that have created the Britain as it is over, let's say, 1,000 years, and just trying to displace culture and traditions, and in effect, like I said, creating a form of ghettoization.
Well, yeah, I mean, you guys didn't do that at all, right? Like your whole downtown freaking London was gutted out and turned into a freaking into a ghetto, dude. A fort. Okay, we went over this too. It's like freaking they took an entire fort that was historical in downtown London, gutted that shit out, and turned it into a ghetto, dude.
And remember, with the current situation, as is at this present moment, we are getting um, immigrants just entering this country illegally and receiving benefits, receiving access to benefits, and was they've not paid into the taxation system, or at least minimally paid into the taxation system, if you account for VAT, but in reality not paid into things like national insurance and stuff, and we can't remove them, even if they've committed crimes, even if they've been found guilty
Hold on a minute,
previously.
you're breaking up.
We
Repeat.
cannot remove them because the European Human Rights Act and the European Human Rights Court, ECJ.
So you guys are
ECJ,
still
yeah, ECJ.
you guys are still going according to the European Union's laws to this day.
No, the ECJ is technically outside of the European Union.
So,
It's its own it's its own separate entity.
and England is abiding by that law outside of their own government.
Yeah.
That's
So in effect, we have until we leave the ECJ, which isn't going to happen during this current government, I can say. Until that happens, we are being dictated by a foreign entity.
which is allowing those immigrants to come in. That's what it is. Is you guys are
Just
pissed off.
allowing those immigrants to stay within the country.
I see what it is. That's so you guys are actually pissed off because like well I ain't gonna say you guys. I'm gonna say all your white nationalists are pissed off about.
Please stop with the net wide nationalists. I think that's very unjustified. That's
Well,
yeah.
I mean,
That's
it does seem to be really common in England these days. It's very, very prevalent. I mean,
that's a mainstream talking point.
it is true though. I mean,
Yeah, no. Well, if you want to believe
a
all of those
lot,
champagne socialists, then yeah, go ahead.
a lot,
It's true.
a
To the
lot.
champagne socialists and the people that live in Westminster.
No, I mean, a lot of the frickin' popular white nationalists came from frickin' England. I mean, a lot of them. I mean, the popular ones. And I'm not talking about like today. You don't hear about them as much, but like back in the early 2000s, you heard about it all the time, especially during the time that Donald Trump was running into office. When they were talking about that frickin'
16?
it was in 2016, I believe it was. Frickin' that was when it was really really popular over there in England, man. And then it just kind of like died off. And 10 years later, frickin' these guys are frickin' running Rumble or Rebel Radio or Rebel Television,
Again, I'm not aware of Rebel Radio.
Rebel
Is
News.
not a well, Rebel isn't Rebel News a I know Rebel News is a Canadian
Yeah, yeah,
organisation, isn't it?
yeah.
And they you can't hardly call them
he
white
he started he
nationalists.
started out in England and ended up eventually down in Canada. Then it was the other guy me and you were talking about where you said that he had just gotten out of prison just recently. And
Oh, Tommy Robertson.
yeah, I mean he was a big player in the whole deal. You know what I'm saying? He's the one that
You remember when the English Defence League was around and ignored the mainstream media because the EDL ended in 2012, even though the people like Sky and the BBC would uh, let you believe that the EDL still exists. When that was happening, um, Tommy Robertson's main crux was related to the accusation of rape gangs.
yeah, and that's a common.
Yeah, and that has been proven to be accurate. Hence the big scandal at the moment of officials, governments, and civil servants and police officers ignoring these points and um,
So where are these?
making out that these things
Where's the
aren't
evidence?
important
Where's the
because
evidence of all
in
these
favour of
rape gangs?
diversity.
Hey, seriously, where's the evidence of all these rape gangs? I mean, you.
There was a criminal trial. I think late last year, early this year, that was proven to. There was proven a number of Pakistanis um, 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 actually conducting these rape gangs.
I mean, it's like here in the United States, we had accusations being made that freaking
And
black
this was
people
actually proven in the court of law.
that black people were stalking white people and beating them up on the streets. You know what I mean? No proof whatsoever to back it up, but these people keep freaking swearing that shit took place, and then
Yeah. Yes,
it's
yes. In this country, there has been a case not that long ago that this has been proven, and it's also been proven, without a shadow of doubt, that there has been cover-ups made by local councils and police forces in this country in relation to that.
Well, yeah, I mean, it became more popular is what it was. Like whenever freaking it was really hot and strong here in the United States, England had certain outlets that were trying to push the whole thing of like black people attacking white people in the streets and shit, and it didn't catch on as well as it did. But now I can see where it's escalated to where freaking like the white nationalists, they freaking kind of jumped on the bandwagon and kind of perpetuated it, and now more people are willing to do it because freaking you have more freaking foreigners in your country than what you did before. You know what I mean? So now you have more people to attack and ridicule and be
Again,
angry
we
at.
are still talking about a minority of people doing the attack. In my sort of quite neck of the woods, I've never actually heard of such a thing. But yeah,
Well, that's what
it's a minority in the grand scheme.
that's what that's what all of this with the riot in Ireland and everything has escalated from. You know what I mean? That's where it all
Yeah.
basically began. Um,
Well, the
like,
Northern Irish issue is much more complicated because of the so-called Troubles that ended in what 91, 92, um, and also because of unfettered immigration as well as.
you know, the thing that really gets me about all of this is in like you sit and you listen to people talk about this and they think that these are all new issues that popped up, and what really gets to me is the fact that no, this isn't. This shit has been going on for decades and decades and decades, and it's just gone from one generation of bullshit to another generation until it's like hyper inflated, you know.
But it has increased significantly, let's say over the last 20 odd years. Um, the You could argue that this round started with Blairism, with the Blairist ideas post 97. Um, but yeah, this issue has been more. I don't want to say visible, more relevant within the last 20 years.
Yeah, and that's the thing, and it's also become relevant within that same time frame here in the United States as well. And it's clear, in my opinion, that it did start here in the United States. But the reason for that was
I
because,
disagree. I disagree because I make the argument that it goes back to um, actions that Tony Blair did
well,
from
I don't
1997.
see the difference between me and you is you think that the immigration's the problem. I think that this is all hyped up freaking propaganda that's been pushed that's not real.
I can make an argument that this actually goes back to the creation of the European Community, the ECC, back in 1955. In fact, I've got a quote if I can find it. In relation to a one of the creators of the European economic community. Wish you asked me this earlier.
No,
But yeah, which talks about in reality um, the idea of creating a federalist Europe in the guise of economic changes.
mhm.
I
Now,
can't find at this present moment, but I'll
now
pass
the
it to you.
I'll let you do some searching and I'll read this so that everybody gets this story. That way we can have it put on the streams. I'll read it for them. Now, I pulled this off of MSN. It's probably one of the only places I've actually been able to find it. Now it says the Northern Ireland riots escalate with petrol bombs and chaos. Now, for the second night in a row, riots rocked the town of Ballymena in Northern Ireland on Tuesday, lasting into the early hours of Wednesday morning. Protesters used petrol, bombs, and fireworks as they clashed with the authorities in response. Police used plastic baton rounds and a water cannon. The overnight disruption in Ballymena, situated north of the capital Belfast, resulted in the injury of 17 police officers, with some requiring hospital treatment. 5 people were arrested on suspicion of uh, uh, riotous behavior, according to the Police Service of Northern Ireland, the PSN. Police have said that across both nights of rioting, businesses and homes have been attacked and damaged, adding that more vehicles were set alight on Tuesday evening as tensions escalated. A number of protests also took place in other towns and cities across Northern Ireland, including Belfast, Lynchburg, and Newton Abbey. Here's what to know about the ongoing unrest at Balmenia. These guys have really got bad writing. I mean, here's what here here's what is here's what to know. Okay. What prompted the riots in Northern Ireland? The disorder started on Monday, June the 9th, after a peaceful protest took place in the town of Ballymena over an alleged sexual assault that police say occurred the previous Saturday. Earlier on Monday, 2 14-year-old boys appeared at Coleraine Magistrates Court in relation to the assault. The boys are charged with attempted oral rape, both denying the charges. The boys appeared via video link from a juvenile center and confirmed their names and ages via a Romanian translator. Later in the day, hundreds of people, including men, women, and children, peacefully protest the ongoing case in the town center of Ballymena, raising concerns about the safety of young women and locals. Separate riots then began in the town on Monday night as police reported a number of missiles thrown at officers and properties nearby being damaged. The authorities have referred to the escalated riots as racially motivated attacks that have targeted minority ethnic communities. Chief Superintendent Sue Steen issued a plea to the public on Monday night saying, "We are urging everyone to remain calm and to act responsibly. Violence and disorder will only place people in greater risks." How long are the riots expected to last? Speaking to the BBC Nolan show on Wednesday morning, Assistant Chief Constable Ryan Henderson said that more order is expected. "We are absolutely prepared that we may see more of this in the coming days," he said, "given that we have seen it now for 2 nights and the severity has maintained over both nights. We are
What
certainly..."
date? Sorry, what date was the article written on?
It was on the 14th, I believe.
Okay, so again, I've not heard anything about this, so presume it's died out.
It's 2 weeks is what this
Yeah.
says. Now, see, this is what I'm talking about. This is why you're not going to hear about it. It's because, National Socialists, white National Socialists, are rioting and causing damage and stuff. So you're not going to hear that.
I would have heard about it, if not on the mainstream media, and that was a BBC report after all. But I would have heard about it on the so-called alternative media circuit.
For some reason, they decided it wasn't important enough. You
Well,
see,
it must have been a very shit in the pan sort of thing because excuse my French, because again, yeah, we didn't know anything about it.
I'm wondering why this never hit those outlets though. This is actually
Because it must have been such a small story.
that's
Only happened.
it doesn't sound pretty small, dude. It freaking
Well,
two
yeah,
nights
but
of
I mean, it happened
rioting. I
within
mean,
such a limited time span.
maybe this is something that they don't want to portray on their alt media source because this doesn't show the image that they want to hear. See, on a lot of the stuff you're talking about, they want to show where these horrible freaking immigrants are coming over and doing freaking bad things, okay? And
But
and
I
these
listened
two
to
these
a
two
lot of content and a lot of content.
these two boys these
Quite
two
of the
boys
content
are
I
only being
review
accused of
is
oral.
quite objective.
See
It's
these
objective without a biased, with let's say a limited bias, but in reality without a bias of their own.
you know
They
I
try to be as neutral as possible.
this is actually important news. This is stuff that should have been reported, period. And it hasn't been. The fact that you've never heard of it is pretty freaking horrible. I mean, why hasn't this been reported? You know, I mean that right there.
It's not been reported in mainstream media. You said BBC, but I presume that was only a localized BBC
You
report.
know, it
Uh,
that's the
it wasn't reported on Sky, as far as I'm aware. It was reported in GB. Again, double checked Sky's, the BBC, GB News, and Talk Radio's YouTube presence just before we came on stream, and yeah, I couldn't find anything related to this.
speaking to the BBC's Nolan show on Wednesday morning.
So it was a localized sort of only for, let's say, Northern Ireland. That
Assistant,
show must only appear on Northern Ireland media
see,
and TVs, radios, whatever.
see, for some reason this wasn't picked up. You know what I mean? This is it was actually he was speaking on a BBC freaking show. You know what I'm saying? But it
Yeah,
wasn't
but
picked
again,
up.
local show.
It was hushed down. They didn't want no part in it.
Well, if it was sort of a big story, I can imagine people at the BBC and the Guardian, Sky would be jumping all over it
Me
because it just reinforces their argument.
Now, meanwhile, Sky News correspondent Connor Gillis, who is in Ballymena, said that some families are barricading themselves in their uh, attics amid the escalating violence. The talk here in this town is that it could go for weeks. Yet, he said.
Have you got any up-to-date information on this since then?
It's Sky News, man. It's Sky News
No,
correspondence right here, man.
you only provided a report that's over 2 weeks old now. Have you done any research on?
No, I haven't.
Um,
No, I haven't. I haven't had time to
okay,
do more research on it because I've had to do a lot of other stuff. Like this right here was actually big news back whenever frickin' all the LA riots and shit started,
oh,
or
yeah,
the
yeah,
LA protests. You know,
mm,
everybody wanted to focus on the LA protests, but nobody cared to even cover frickin' the fact that this stuff was going on in Ireland. and that it was important.
an island. So.
You know, Sky News even they had a correspondent on the ground right there that freaking even covered it, um, as well as BBC. So this wasn't something that wasn't knowledge. You know.
Okay, so it was again. I won't say drowned out because it wasn't really reported on at all, as far as I can see. Sure, there might have been localized reports. Um,
It
and,
says in
and remember, BBC still have regional units and still report within regional areas or regional news.
they said that they did a press conference on X, dude. In
Yeah,
response to the first night of rioting, Henderson said during a press conference, which was done on X, this violence was clearly racially motivated and targeted at our minority ethnic community and the police. It was racist thuggery purely and simply, and any attempt to justify or explain it as anything else has misplaced.
again, I've noticed this lately. The mainstream media and the police will just discount anything that they don't like as being racist,
Now,
if irrelevant if it is or if it's not.
Now, the BBC has reported that some households have put up signs signifying the ethnicity or nationality of its residents, seemingly in an effort to remain out of harm's way. One photo shows a sign above a door reading Filipino lives here. In a state in a statement released on Wednesday in response to the second night of chaos, Chief Constable John Boucher called the riots mindless violence and that it was deeply concerning and utterly unacceptable. These criminal acts
Um,
not only endanger lives but also risk undermining the ongoing criminal justice process led by the police in support of a victim who deserves truth, justice, and protection, Boucher said.
so they automatically making assumptions of victims now, which is another socialist, extreme socialist trick by calling, determining that someone is a victim even before it goes to court.
Well, when a person is in a cell, they're in the custody of the law enforcement. So whenever you are trying to attack police officers and
I'm sorry.
you're trying to
I
create
mean
your
the
own form of
not the
justice.
accused, not the accused. I mean the um
Well, what these people are doing is trying to
the
infringe
language. It's
on,
the language that they're using.
well, they're trying to infringe on their rights. Okay, so just because they've been put into custody doesn't mean that they have a right to freaking law and
Indeed.
justice. And they
Okay,
and
this is why I always this is why I criticized people like Nioki in the past when he claims that somebody has done something even before the accused has finished their court case. I mean, yeah, the old premise of innocent until proven guilty beyond a reasonable doubt.
well, do you guys do that in England though? Because I mean,
This is one thing I try to stay away from. This is one thing I try to make a counter argument for. I do believe in that premise. I believe that premise is one of the most fundamental premises of our legal system.
okay, just I because I wanted to make sure we do it here in the United States. I know that that's very important here too, but I wasn't really
Hmm.
sure if they did it in England.
Well, it's a westernized concept that really came out of the Britain.
Well, I've heard
Um,
rumors though that you guys, like the guilty, had to prove their innocence rather than that the state has to prove their guilt. I thought
in some circumstances, I've heard that's been true, but again, it's not something that I wish to drill on, and I find it somewhat. Yeah, I find it. Yeah, I don't like that concept at all.
so I really don't know what the real truth is behind all that, to be honest with you. And that would be something to actually go over. It was sad that we actually had to end last year's talk show when we did Roger's Real Time Talk Show because there was a lot more that we couldn't cover because there's so much going on. You know what I mean?
Mm.
And that was one of them. I mentioned it at the beginning of it, but I don't think we really had time to really dive into that area and talk about it very much.
Anyway, just to go back to the previous subject, I did find a quote.
What did you find?
The European economic, or the creation of the European Union, European Economic Community. Jean Monnet, who was um, the Deputy Secretary General of the League of Nations between 1919 and 1923, who then became the Commissioner of the French Plan Commission in 1946 to 1952, and also was the president of the High Authority of the European Coal and Steel Community in 1952 to 1955. So he had a really long life, but he was an entrepreneur, a politician, and various other things. And is considered to be one of the founding fathers of what we now know as the European Union. Wrote in 1956, and I quote, Europe's nations should be guided towards a super state without their people understanding what is happening. This can be accomplished by successive steps, each disguised as having an economic purpose, but which will irreversibly lead to federation. So, as we are seeing now, as we've been seeing for the last since the late 80s, since Maastricht in 91, the EEC and then the EU being used as a point of aid in economic purposes, but in effect has led to the creation of the European Union, which is really a federalist state.
When when I think about that again, I mean, I have to rethink it too when it comes to a federation because like a federalized government, that's the thing you really hate when you hear the term government, but we call it a government because we are a federation of separate states that are joined together under a federal government. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, but in the US case, there is still an element of democracy with
Well,
even your federal system.
well,
In the EU, sure, you've got this pseudo democracy idea coming from the European Union, but it is still controlled by an unelected representative in the guise of the European Commission.
mhm.
So it's not really, like I said, it's a pseudo democracy. It's a fake democracy in effect.
Well, the federalization of these freaking separate states as well is what I was going to get into too, where they have Greece, they have Germany, they have freaking France, Spain, and
Mm.
they're creating a federal government. You know what I'm saying?
Mm.
Whereas you call England state and you get pissed off at me when I call it government. That's what they're creating. Is basically they're creating a federal government. You know what I mean?
Yeah, but in the UK, there is sure there's devolution in Wales, Scotland, and Ireland, but it's still overruled by Westminster. But there's still democracy.
Hmm.
People still vote for the government and also for the devolved assemblies.
Yeah.
Where in the European Union, you might vote for your EU member, but the EU member is still dictated, still controlled by an unelected cabal
Cabal.
in the form of the European Commission.
Exactly. Yeah. That's.
And the European Union members can't really bring argue for new legislation themselves. It is controlled and dictated by the European Commission again, which is an unelected number of bureaucrats.
So with that being said, I think we should uh, take a quick break. I want to come back, and
Good idea.
when we come back, we're gonna move on from the Irish and the English. We're gonna get into some of the dirty, dastardly deeds that Trump has been up to. This is the shit that we couldn't avoid. Okay, there's just so much stuff that's going on. We've done.
Okay.
I mean, it would have been an injustice if we didn't talk about this stuff. You know what I mean?
Okay, fair enough. Fair enough.
Okay.
And a
Frick,
lot has been happening in the last couple of weeks.
that decrepit freaking orange man. He freaking he just keeps delivering, dude. You know what I mean? It's like I call it garbage news for a reason, and it's like he is the king of garbage news. Seriously, he is.
Let's discuss this after the break.
Okay, let me go ahead and put some cool music on for people to listen to, and we will be back. I'm gonna drop this background, and when we come back, we'll have some cool stuff to share on here. Maybe if we're lucky, freaking Mr. Robot will wake up from his slumber and come in and hang out with us for this, because I know he likes talking trash. So.
I've already had we've already had a discussion with a interesting person from that area of the world within the last couple of days. So I don't think I could cope with another one.
Okay, so
You know exactly what I'm talking about.
yeah. Okay, so let me go ahead and put this music on. I will mute out. You probably want to mute out too, Mark.
Yeah, indeed.
This is gonna get ugly. This is from Mr. Robot, aka Columinati. You can find his music on Hacker Radio. If you guys like what you hear, go over and give him some support and tell him how great of a job he does. With that, I'm going to mute out and go use the bathroom. I'll talk to you guys in a little bit.
Awakening from an epic dream, awakening from the long dark night. Man, get that now. Awakening from history, awakening from duality. Man, get that now. The liberation of the human soul to consciousness of the one and all. The activation of the sacred plan, the birthing of a new man. A new man. When the light within is revealed, all the pain and suffering shall be healed, and the truth of love is our destiny, living on the earth in peace and harmony. options, awakening to the joy of life. Awakening to a new dimension, awakening to a paradise. The illusion of separation disappearing to unity. Into the source of a high vibration, into the wonder of the mystery. A mystery. When the light within is revealed, all the pain and suffering shall be healed, and the truth of love is our destiny, living on the earth in peace and harmony. The Theophilus Thistler, the thistle sifter is sifting a sieve full of unsifted thistles. Thrust 3,000 thistles through the thick of his thumb. 3,000 thistles through the thick of his thumb. 3,000 thistles through the thick of his thumb. Theophilus Thistler, the thistle sifter is sifting a sieve full of unsifted thistles. Thrust 3,000 thistles through the thick of his thumb. 3,000 thistles. Mr. Robot rolled around a rolled round, and if Mr. Robot rolled around a rolled round, where is the round roll? Mr. Robot rolled round. Where is the round roll? Mr. Robot rolled round. Mr. Robot rolled round. Mr. Robot rolled round. And if Mr. Robot rolled a rolled round, and if Mr. Robot rolled around a rolled round, where is the round roll? Mr. Robot rolled round. Here is an exercise demonstrating the union of in at the end of words. Dividing and gliding and sliding and falling and brawling and sprawling and driving and driving and striving. Dividing and gliding and sliding and falling and brawling and sprawling and driving and driving and driving. Theophilus Thistler, the thistle sifter is sifting a sieve full of unsifted thistles. Plus 3,000 thistles through the thick of his thumb. Plus 3,000 thistles through the thick of his thumb. Plus 3,000 thistles through the thick of his thumb. Theophilus Thistler, the thistle sifter is sifting a sieve full of unsifted thistles. Plus 3,000 thistles through the thick of his thumb. 3,000 thistles. Mr. Robot rolled around a rolled round, and if Mr. Robot rolled around a rolled round, where is the round roll? Mr. Robot rolled round. Where is the round roll? Mr. Robot rolled round. Mr. Robot Mr. Robot rolled around a rolled round, and if Mr. Robot rolled around a rolled round, where is the round roll? Mr. Robot rolled round. Where is the round roll? Mr. Robot rolled round. Where is the round roll? Mr. Robot rolled round. Where is the round roll? Mr. Robot rolled round. Where is the round roll? Mr. Robot rolled round. Where is the round roll? Mr. Robot rolled round. Where is the round roll? Mr. Robot rolled round. Hardly had his Hail Highness heard the easy hedgehog when he hit the humming bee by the hunter who had horrible beetles in the human hall. I love to hear the horse's hard iron hooves go hammer, 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 hammer on the easy highway. I
Once the gods carved earth like a cosmic chessboard, Poseidon claimed Atlantis, his starborn accord. 10 twin suns, throne of tridents waves at his command. Empire stretched from bow, big stones to Mayan sand. Monoliths stacked like Legos blocks no crane could lift. Sonic levitation, gods don't need pulleys or grit. Athena taught Athens, Hephaestus forged veins of gold, but Atlantis spires pierced heaven, stories untold. Ages of virtue, divine blood pure in the veins. No egregious geodesic temples where starlight reigns, but mortality crept in, diluted the grace. Gold turned to rust, hubris eclipsed the god fast.
Of Atlantis, drowned in the deep. Poseidon's lost kingdom, where titans still sleep. From Giza to Tiwanaku, the codes ancient law, as above, so below. Cosmic empire of laws and princes of plasma, their thrones now debris. Echoes of Atlantis, where gods walked the sea.
Watched the fall, saw vice crack the divine. Pyramids hummed warnings, but they ignored the signs. Sky split with fury, tsunami swallowed their pride. Atlantis sang screaming, but blueprints survive. Baalbek's foundation, stones that defy modern math. 1,000-ton puzzle, gravity's aftermath. Scholars still baffled how they align the stars. They rode cosmic currents, breaching space-time's bars. Now divers chase shadows where crystal cities gleamed. AI scans the ocean, but truth a half-dream. Freemasons whisper maps in their lodges of lore. Plato's Critias, a metaphor or a war.
Echoes of Atlantis, drowned in the deep. Poseidon's lost kingdom, where titans still sleep. From Giza to Tiwanaku, the codes ancient law, as above, so below. Cosmic empire of law, 10 princes of plasma, their thrones now debris. Echoes of Atlantis, where gods walk the sea.
They say Poseidon's seed still flows in our veins. In every megalith, every grid that restrains. The Dogon chart Sirius, Templars guard the flame. But Atlantis tech, it's encoded in our DNA's frame. Zeus's verdict was fire, a flood in ice. Yet the Sphinx still stares, whispering sacrifice. Mortal minds crave power, but miss the design. True kings rule through resonance, not bloodline. Now decode the ruins, their psalms etched in stone. A star-born king's empire, now dust and bone. The hall of records buried neath Giza's cold gaze holds anti-gravity schematics from pre-flood days. Crystal engines hummed, organ fueled their might, till pride turned their frequencies dissonant blight. The Anunnaki fled, Mars colonies crumbled. Leviathan's bones in the Mariana rumbled. But Poseidon's ghost rides the Bermuda's mist. Evolve past the greed or drown in the abyss. Tsunamis taller than gods crack continents like eggs. Jungles of Egypt drowned, turned to sand in Poseidon's regret. Mammals shrunk to lapdogs, skies choked by volcanic breath. Waves circled the globe thrice, 3 funerals for death. Up Nepishtim, rode the arc of frequencies, not wood. Up tetrahedron ziggurat where anti-grav pulses stood. While Atlantis sank, he spliced DNA and quantum seeds. Stashed them in Göbekley's veins and Indus Valley reeds. Volcanic winter's curse, Zeus hit the reset. Scorched the grids, erased the moon-ringed internet. Noah's not a shepherd, he's a star-born archivist. Cracking hermetic scrolls in caves where mushrooms twist. The survivors crawl from mud with amnesiac eyes. Built new gods from scrap metal and fallen skies. Now desert bones whisper where cedars once soared. Man's just a ghost in Atlantis' holographic horde. The flood wasn't water, it was math. A codex purge, Enoch's nightmares digitized in the cosmic surge. As above, so below, the blueprint stays true. Rise from the ashes or drown in what's new. The flood wasn't water, it was math. A codex purge, Enoch's nightmares digitized in the cosmic surge. As above, so below, the blueprint stays true. Rise from the ashes or drown in what's you. Echoes of Atlantis drowned in the deep, the deep. Poseidon's lost kingdom, where titans still sleep. From Giza to Tiwanaku, their codes etched in awe. As above, so below, cosmic empire of law. 10 princes of plasma, their thrones now debris. Echoes of Atlantis, where gods walk the sea. So when you see Stonehenge, Angkor Wat spire. No Atlantis lives in the quantum choir. The gods were myths, their mentors in code. Rise from the ashes or repeat what they owe. A block every 2 minutes. Hieroglyphs scream their pride, but not a how and what's written. Modern science scratches heads. These structures can't be mimicked. Copper tools, now scholars tripping. Logic thinly stretched and twisted. Ran an obelisk, 1,000 tons dragged across the sand. Today's cranes can't lift a fifth. What force moved them by hand? Call the ancients primitive. Yo, that's pure delusion. Physicists today need miracles to crack their fusion. The high priest of Kemet mapped the stars with precision, while modern minds stay chained to 3D prison. Land of the lost, esoteric Egypt, hidden was an allegorical crypt. Written in the language of symbolism, advanced knowledge cloaked in simple living secrets that rewrite history's episode. As above, so below, the hermetic code. Key of life unlocks the heavenly abode. Conscious matrix, alchemic pyramid ode. The Sphinx wears water scars, a flood from ancient skies. Explosives crack the pyramids, no tombs, just hollow lies. Money stolen? Nah, that's ego talk. A weak hypothesis, truths buried in the stars, encrypted in the myths. Sacred geometry, pagan songs, the roots of Christendom. Pythagoras knelt at their feet, Jesus learned the kingdom. Temples mirror Orion, Aztecs trace the same glow. Megalithic GPS, what's buried below. They split the lotus stem, hid wisdom at the core. Solomon's temple, just a copy of what came before. Land of the lost, esoteric Egypt, hidden wisdom, allegorical crypts. Written in the language of symbolism, advanced knowledge cloaked in simple living secrets that rewrite history's episode. As above, so below, the hermetic code. Key of life unlocks the heavenly abode. Conscious matrix, alchemy pyramid ode. Iron to gold, alchemy's flame, they mastered the unseen. Telekinetic levitation, Mars dust and then genes. Critics laugh, aliens but the proof's in the plasma. Why is the Dogon tribe no serious? Was a binary drama. Myths of metaphors, the truth's too bright to hold. Scattered in ruins worldwide, a map etched in gold. They call themselves the Negeru, gods with cosmic ships, gifted fire, math, and law, then dip beyond the eclipse. Now academia's gatekeepers mock what they can't measure. The scales of Ma'at weigh soul, not tech or treasure. The Zet Tepe dawned when gods walked as king, left blueprints in Gobekli Tepe and the Nazca line. The emerald tailor's truth burns through the scholar's denial. We're echoes of starlight reclaiming our trial.
When you stare at the sky, feel the ache in your chest. That's ancestral memory. We're all cosmic guests. The pyramids home a hymn, rising cold but divine. As above, so below, till the world's realigned.
Land of the lost, esoteric Egypt, the truth's a spiral eternity script. Language of symbolism, we're gods we've been missing.
You, you need to give me some sort of warning or something before that.
Well, I mean, once the
Yeah.
song's over, the song's over. You know what I mean? I have to take it off now. Before we get going on with the topics, we do have shout outs to make. On Kick, I want to do a shout out to the Great Conspiracy for stopping by. He said, "Have a good stream, friend." He's a pretty good guy. If you guys are on Kick, check him out. He has pretty good shows. Now, also, we have a lot of comments from Svetlana off of DLive, which I do wish to read and maybe even make some comments on too. Now, she goes into what we had been discussing with well, actually, Dragus actually started saying stuff too, so I'll make a shout out to Dragus on freaking they're on D Live as well. They've both been having some conversations. So what she had to say is um she ended up telling us earlier that in that she couldn't come on the show because her kid and
Yeah.
her husband. But then she went on to
Yeah.
say, in Canada now they are offering medically assisted death for poor people who are stressed over not being able to pay their bills. Starting off as just for terminally ill people. Also doing it now for veterans with PTSD or mentally ill people who can't get their depression under control.
Well, yeah, it goes back to the point that we made earlier, but it just starts off as the old road to hell is paved with good intentions argument. Starts off with terminally ill, and then it gets pierced. Then you find next thing the people on benefits, if you're on benefits, commit suicide,
Yeah.
help the state.
Or help. Let us help assist you in the decision of committing suicide. You know what I mean? And then she goes on to say, I don't agree with abortion unless it endangers the life of the mother or is the result of rape. Rape has been up since they flooded. Rapes have been up since they flooded since they flooded the UK with invaders. And this is where we start hearing her take on England, like they've done to all the other Ukrainian and Slav women. Why do you think there are so many Slavic prostitutes in Israel?
Yeah, I need to look at a definite figures for rape cases in the UK. I've heard rumours, but I've not really reviewed the data, so I can believe that.
And she goes on to say, money wasn't the only wealth they transferred to Israel when they faked the economic collapse of the Soviet Union. More like the liberal sluts who live promiscuously that frequent the clinics that are draining your tax dollars. And that is when Dragus came in and said, hello to you, Dragus Production. Mark Watashik of Dragus Production.
Wow, you got his name correct once.
Yeah. That's when Svetlana gave Dragus a internet hug. She called him. She says, "Hug doll," or no, he says, "Hugs doll. How are you doing today?" And that's when they started. That's when they started.
No, internet flirting.
That's when they started getting into their conversation. Apparently, it was Svetlana's daughter's birthday yesterday, so happy birthday to Svetlana's daughter. or belated happy birthday. Now, this is where Dragus Mark says, "Oh my God, quit talking about Sonya Roger." That was probably when I was.
Did we even mention Sonya?
There's no telling where that comes into play at all. Like we
You might have mentioned that, but okay.
so after that, this is where Svetlana gives her two cents on white nationalism. She says, "Nothing's wrong with white nationalism without the socialism. It's healthy. We need more unity and a group preference if we're going to survive." And I'd like to say I disagree with that. That's the kind of stuff that was brought up with
Okay,
Nazism,
let's leave
with
let's
Nazis. Let me
no,
finish with Nazis. The whole premise of the Nazi regime was we need to frickin' unite as frickin' this glorious frickin' ethnic group so that we can eradicate everybody else and become supreme beings of the frickin' world. So
okay, I can see your point, but I'm going to just draw that out a bit. I'm not going to call it white nationalism, I'm just going to call it nationalism. Because again, you can have black nationalism, you can have yellow nationalism, you can have brown nationalism. Are you saying that there shouldn't be any form of nationalism, or I mean, as far as culture, traditions, the protection of a state, there shouldn't be any form of national pride, patriotism? There shouldn't be any form of patriotism, according. Is that what you suggest then?
well, nationalism isn't
It can be.
it's
It can be.
not the idea of what we're talking about when it comes to socialism. Like the original concept of nationalism was people who freaking took care of their own country. It
Yeah.
later got turned into the term isolationist, which that's what they referred to as the United States when they chose to stay out of European conflicts. We were drawn into it.
Japan has always been, well, within last since World War II, has been considered as being sort of isolationist.
Well, they were before,
Switzerland,
yeah.
Switzerland. Well, there's the argument of the Sino, the Japanese activities in the area. Throughout the first half of the 20th century and the 19th century, but there's a long argument in itself. But also Switzerland has tried to stay out of, did stay out of World War One, World War Two. They've got a fairly nationalistic concept, and they're not EU members. They've tried to keep hold of their own nationalism.
Now, with
I
them,
wouldn't call them Nazis. Far from it.
with them though, they're very strange people. They wear small shoes. They
Not
freaking
all. I think that's a bit of a stereotype.
yeah, it probably is, but I still bring it up because
It's like saying that all Americans drink weak beer.
that's what you say all the time. So I guess you're guilty of stereotyping Americans. So
Maybe.
now, there isn't nothing wrong with freaking trying to have pride in your heritage and who you are. Don't get me wrong, but when you start taking that to an extreme where you're gonna freaking group up as a group of people, especially Europeans. Europeans are notorious for freaking doing evil things. Like, and everybody has this concept like Nazi Germany.
What's happening in South Africa at this present moment?
Well, let me
The
finish.
so-called kill the Boer,
Let,
quote unquote.
let me use it. Finish this up real quick. like everybody has this idea that Nazi Germany was where it all started, but a lot of this actually started in countries that weren't Germany. Romania was notorious for it. They've had a really, they were actually one of the first uh, national groups to start anti-Semitic freaking groups that actually had a lot of influence in Europe during the beginning of the 1900s. You know what I'm saying? Like, and people don't know that shit. They think that it's all Germany, and it really wasn't. So,
About the Turks.
yeah, the Turks, perfect example. Like, they marched. I couldn't tell you how many gypsies to their freaking death.
The entire Armenian genocide.
Yeah,
And yeah,
and they still deny it to this day, and they get away with it. You know, to this day, they still refuse to deny that they marched those people to their death. You know, and this was all the result of freaking nationalism. This is the
and talking of which, I've been watching a lot of interviews between but with that extremely foul, disgusting person, Jank. With Jank, the Young Turks, Loki.
yeah. He
Yeah. With interview with him against Douglas.
Mhm.
Want to say Douglas Adams? Douglas Murray, and yeah, and Shank is one of the sort of proponents of there was no such thing as the Armenian genocide. In fact, he created a company named after the Young Turks, which was a movement that pushed forward, that created a lot of the issues
Mhm.
during that period.
And she goes on to say we're only 7% of the world's population, as is thanks most recently to the Kalergi plan, yet everyone else is the minority. Probably just a dozen or two protesters blown up in rioters because nationalism is bad and they want to use it as an example of hate. Yeah.
Funny enough, I've heard organisations such as, I think, the UK National Trust use the term global majorities when as a sort of defence.
Right.
Um, yeah,
Now,
I agree. Yeah,
she went on to say, yeah, Antifa folks and pro-Palestinian folks can literally riot for weeks and it's okay.
Mm.
The thing about this is why is it that those riots are becoming mainstream news, yet riots and protests in Ireland are being hidden from the public eye? Now, see, that's what I'm talking about. We have this conversation, and this makes the third time I brought that up, and nobody wants to comprehend that. They want to look away from that, and they want to say, "Oh, but they can do these protests for." No, that's not even a part of the conversation. The part of the conversation I'm bringing up is the fact that this took place, and it never even hit the freaking mainstream media. It never hit.
again,
It never hit the supposed alternative media sources either.
as far as I could see,
You
as far
see.
as as far as my review is concerned. Again, I think it's just the fact that it was such a insular, small incident, or that's what it seems to be.
That's not
That's what it
small,
seems to
dude.
be.
That's
Well,
not.
I mean, limits more as in the time length
Well,
and the area.
I mean, it's not small, dude. That's pretty big. When you have that much activity going on in Northern Ireland, you better frickin' be
Yes,
nervous.
in one town.
Well, no, it was multiple towns in the northern part. It was multiple.
You only talking about Belmari or something?
I mentioned it earlier on, and it said straight up that freaking riots also broke out in surrounding towns around that one as well.
But still within a sort of very small area. Remember, looked at these, even where I am, I'm in a fairly moderate sized town, but we've got a lot of villages and smaller areas around us, within a good, I don't know,
Yeah, it says
14 miles.
number of protests also took place in other towns and cities across Northern Ireland, including Belfast, Lisburn, and Newton Abbey. Did you get that?
No, I've got large areas, to be fair. Yeah. But again, I just wonder if this thing sort of just died out as quickly as it was created. Because again, you read a report from over 2 weeks ago, 2.5 weeks ago, and you not found anything since then.
Well, I haven't checked up on it, but to me, what it sounds like is this has been shut down. They don't want it to become mainstream, and that's what a lot of smaller towns or smaller areas have a tendency of doing is shutting shit down. You know what I mean?
I'm not so sure because if it was such a large thing, then the BBC, people like the BBC, Sky, and Guardian would come out and use as an animation. And look at these far right people, yeah, all that sort of narrative.
Now, after that,
That would give them plenty of them.
Svetlana goes on to say that the U.S. hasn't been flooded by invaders to the extent as the U.K., Germany, Sweden, or Canada yet, so easily to see why you'd consider it a blow up problem. Now, if you listen to me, yeah, you probably got that, but if you don't think that the U.S. has been flooded by invaders, then you actually agree with me. Now, if you go and you talk to the same people that believe in what you believe about Europe here in the United States, they would tell you that no, you're wrong. That the world, this country has been invaded by those dirty rapist frickin' Mexicans. Like how you guys are supposedly being invaded by those dirty rapist Muslims. Those dirty,
You said that, I
horrible
didn't.
child rapist murderers that are freaking invading Europe and invading England. Well, we've got those dirty, horrible rapist Mexicans and Latinos from Central America that are coming into our country and raping our children. You know,
Again, you said that, not me.
I guess I'm the only one who sees the common theme there, in that it's perpetuated by frickin' a certain group of people that want to cause hate and frickin' anger and divide frickin' people according to race.
But what happens if if this is proven to be at a large extent true? Are you still going to take that narrative?
I wonder why the same shit that's being said over in England and Ireland is the same shit that's being said here in the United States, except for it's two separate different ethnic groups that are being targeted. Same exact. You can stick them. You can stick them side by side.
No. It's not an ethnic group per se in the UK, because we get in Eastern Europeans as well. There is issues with a large amount of illegal Eastern Europeans or illegal migrants coming into, or people coming into the UK illegally from Eastern Europe. So it is not just, as you say, one ethnic group.
Well, it's coming from Eastern Europe into England, and you.
Yeah.
So you guys don't just have a
Middle
problem
East
with
and
Muslims.
the Middle East
You guys don't have just the.
and
Okay, so see, this is England, dude. England hates fucking everybody, dude. You guys don't just have a problem with Muslims, you have a problem with those fucking Eastern Europeans. Is that what you're saying? Don't. Oh shit. I think I lost. I lost him. I hope are you still there?
you're being unfair.
Well, I mean, it was just I got knocked off and I had to freaking hit the refresh
And you've just
button.
muted yourself.
No, oh god. No, I didn't do that. I freaking just got knocked off and I had to freaking hit the refresh thing on there.
Okay.
Did you hear all that?
I was talking at the time, so
Okay, let me start over. So what you're trying to say is like you guys not only hate freaking the Middle East. England is horrible, dude. Like so you guys have a problem against not just the Middle East, but like Eastern Europeans too.
no, that's not true. Personally, I've got no issue
I'm
with
talking about
anybody.
England, not
What I
you.
do have issues with is unfettered illegal immigration.
Okay. I just wanted to make that clear.
Oh, actually, illegal immigration. Full stop. Irrelevant if it's unfettered, fettered, or whatever.
Okay, so apparently she kept going after I told her that I'm gonna read her comments. She's really fired up. She said, I don't support Nazism. I hated Slavs more than I hated Joes and Poles. Got the real death camps, and Joes got Poles and their theaters. Germans didn't call themselves Nazis. They called themselves German nationalists. Nazis
Yeah.
is
Hence my NDSAP argument. Well, Nazism is more of a. I think it actually came from Britain because it was just an easier, sort of more publicly pleasing term, if you want.
no. She did say Germans didn't call themselves Nazis. They called themselves German nationalists. Nazi is
NDSAP.
right. Now, Nazi is a derogatory term invented by commies to discredit.
I think it actually came from the term Nazi. Actually, it's an English connotation. It actually came from Britain. I remember reading some research about this some time ago.
Well, see, Nazi is an acronym for the party, the Workers' Party. In
No,
German.
NDSAP is the abbreviations.
No, it's translated into English and it comes out as the Nazi.
NDSAP, isn't it? So NDSPA. Nope.
She goes on to say it's a derogatory term invented by commies to discredit and silent dissenters. Now, the thing that when it comes to socialism, and this is something I brought up previously, this is the reason why I don't agree with socialism in any level on any term, is because everybody has this idea that frickin' socialism is about all these leftists and right. The term left and right that you don't like by itself is actually a socialist term, okay? Before socialism became prominent, there was no such thing as left and right. So people need to understand that these aren't freaking peaceful freaking socialist groups that get along with each other and collaborate. They actually fight amongst one another. And that in itself is a reason why socialism is not a good thing, and it never will be a good thing, because nobody within these socialist groups can agree on what real socialism really is. You know what I'm saying? So there are always going to be conflicts. There's always going to be fighting, but they're always going to push their socialist agendas.
I think I pointed this out on last Friday's stream in relation to the Bolshevik Revolution, in relation to the red and white argument
Mm-hmm.
at the time, and also issues in relation to things like Trotsky. Trotsky was given a bad blow by Stalin.
Right.
They were both, let's say, left wing, extreme socialists, but they didn't see their move. They were two different parts of the same movement, and they disagreed on various things. Hence why Trotsky ended up in can't remember what Latin American country. But yeah, and also the reason for the purge in 1930, the political purge in 1933. Why the Soviet parliament shrunk by a massive amount of people because Stalin decided that these party members were not suitable enough, in effect, and therefore they had to be removed, either gulag or a bullet in the back of the head. And we saw similar sort of arguments in China in the Cultural Revolution of 1966 to 1976.
Right. And also, another thing with this conflict between the socialists, if you take a look at the history when it comes to, well, you were talking about the Weimar Republic.
Oh, you were mentioning, I was talking about after the Weimar.
Well,
I was talking about the invasion of the North, of the NDSOP.
well, you mentioned the Weimar.
Which I just remembered what it stands for, and I'm going to butcher this totally, but it's the National Socialist, the Dutch Arbeidspartij, Partei. Again, I butchered that, but yeah.
During the Weimar Republic, if you check it out, you'll also find out that Hitler became very, very prominent when he actually sent frickin' his standing army out to attack frickin' the Soviet or the communists.
Okay.
That was one thing that got him real popular during that time period.
Really, you could argue that Hitler destroyed the Weimar Republic. It was Hitler that dismantled the Weimar Republic.
Yeah, most definitely. Most definitely he did. Now, she went on to say both sides were controlled by World War II. The real question was where they were going to put the Jews, the Madagascar, or Palestine. The point was to take over the Eastern European resources and kill as many Europeans as possible. It was illegal in Germany to kill Jews. Good for the Irish finally starting to stick up for their folks. It only wasn't mass reported because they didn't want other nationalists getting any ideas. But
well, the Irish question goes back way back 100 odd years ago. I was saying the other day I was watching the old TV programs, or TV episodes Sharp, which was all about a British Brigade in a fictional story about British Brigade in the Napoleonic Wars, and there is an episode in there that talks about the Irish question and a lot of demonstrated there was a lot of propaganda, especially coming out of the US at the time, or America at the time. Well, actually,
I'm
yeah,
actually I'm
uh,
actually I'm actually starting to
yeah,
debate on that though. You know, I'm seeing a lot of stuff coming out of Canada, especially like right now, especially when it comes to the push that's going on between the United States and Canada. I didn't realize that it was so fierce when it comes to these tariffs. You know, you're kind of breaking up on me, but
okay.
I noticed that today, like there's a lot of stuff that's going on right now between Trump and Canada concerning the tariffs and taxes. And when I was listening to a lot of that, man, I mean, it just kind of made me think a little bit. I'm thinking a lot of this stuff is actually coming out of Canada more than it is anywhere else.
Actually, you've got to consider that Mark Carney is an ideologically driven economist, first and foremost. Yeah, that raises some interesting questions in itself.
And Canada has always had that liberal kind of
Mm.
that whole liberal Labor Party kind of woke kind of atmosphere, you know what I mean? And they've always been that way, even before woke was a thing. That was Canada. You know, we're going to talk peaceably, and you're going to use kind words, and if you don't, we're going to beat you with a frickin' noodle and make you.
Yeah, actually, I did see a nice little comedy sketch earlier about Canadian stereotypes and the sort of always apologising for everything and anything, and then apologising for apologising. Um, yeah,
Now,
the mm,
she went on to say that they will end up using what happened in Ireland as an example of hate when they make their anti-hate speech laws. Um, I don't know about that. I think a lot of this is actually shame for Ireland and England. They really don't want to see they don't want everybody to see what's actually taking place there because it's okay to show LA freaking with their protests and their riots, quote unquote riots, which I don't think they are. I think it's the equivalence of the same thing as J6. You know, J6
I don't know.
was just people that got out of hand, you know.
Yeah, I could argue that. I think I made the argument in reality. The Northern Ireland at this present moment is a bit of a tricky question because long-term issues, and also really um, our current government and the previous government threw Northern Ireland under a bus, metaphorically speaking,
Mhm.
where the EU has more influence in Northern Ireland, even though it is still Northern Ireland is still part of the United Kingdom, but politically speaking, the EU has got its tentacles in that quite heavily in that country.
Mhm. And she also said ICE protesters are paid uh, antagonists, same as Antifa. Now, with with Antifa, you can't separate that from frickin' socialists. Okay, we went over this last year with Roger's Real Time Talk Show about England and how anarchists basically merged with what would be now the Labour Party. So when you look at anarchists, you can't think that they're frickin' the were against freaking conformity and shit like that. That's not what they are. They're actually the opposite. And they're,
Yeah, I've got an argument for this one. The people like Antifa or organisations as like Antifa's are just the idiots in the room. They are being played by um, companies. In
Mhm.
effect, they are being played by corporations. If you want to use the socialist concept, then they like to think that they are sort of social, sort of left wing socialists, but they are just being played by a form of technocratic socialism themselves. They're being played by companies. I mean, the old joke. How many Antifa members do you see with iPhones and drinking pumpkin spiced lattes from Starbucks?
uh, no,
But yeah, they are fools.
she also went on to say, well, I'm gonna leave the part out about her British grandparents because she said some stuff that was personal there. I'm gonna leave that out on the stream. Um, and we can talk about that in chat if you want to slip
Yeah,
sits
we
on
can
a
do it.
but we don't need to bring up your personal stuff. Now she said I don't agree with socialism. Both socialism and capitalism are Marxist constructs intended to be a stepping stone to communism. Both Soviet socialism and National Socialism were controlled by the same group, just ask Mark. The Poles were the first to figure it out. Yeah. Carney is a banker from the UK. The east of Canada is very liberal, but the west is not.
Remember, Carney became was the head of Canadian bank before he became the head of the UK bank. I'm not sure what she means by capitalism being a form of communism. Did she say?
We do not ask questions.
Huh?
We do not ask questions.
Okay, I'm a bit confused about that one.
Now, she went ahead and said the west of Canada wants to separate from the east because they just want our resources, oil, gas, and farmland and mines. Even though Gates owns most of the farmland in Saskatchewan, and the U.S. and China owns most of our oil, gas, and mines. The U.S. has exclusive rights to our uranium since World War II. Socialism is just politically correct communism. I think that's the opposite. I think communism is a deformed, wretched form of socialism. Socialism actually started first with the First International and then the Second International. The Third International is actually communist. Um,
Just on the point of the US oil, I'm not sure if there is a good argument to say that China owns large amounts because I believe that there is a lot of small fracking operations in the US, or well, lots of oil, not fracking because that's gas, but lots of oil operations in the US being determined or being controlled by relatively small companies within the US. so I'm not so sure about the Chinese. Not to say that all your operations in the USA is related to US companies, but a lot of them are, as far as I am aware.
I'm pretty proud of Svetlana. You know why?
Go on.
We do not have to cover any of the bullshit about Trump at all.
You were really wanting to.
No, I really wasn't. I hate fucking
I'm
Trump.
looking at the entire list here.
I hate Trump with a freaking passion, dude. Anybody who likes that man is fucking out of their mind. They are freaking.
I know. There is a difference between personally liking
Oh,
somebody
they love him,
and not
dude.
liking their policies.
No, they love him, dude. They worship freaking Donald Trump. He has his own freaking statue made of gold.
Yeah, yeah, but I might like as somebody on the personal level, but I might not like their sort of professional, or I might not like a lot of the arguments or the ideology.
Right. Well, I mean, I'm just
There's
saying.
just a limit.
I'm just saying. I really am glad she did that because freaking, I'm so fucking sick of talking about Donald Trump, dude. You
You
know,
haven't actually mentioned him yet. Oh, you have mentioned him, but you haven't
just a
mentioned
little
him
bit.
at this point.
Just a little bit. In Svetlana, I know you disagree with me on a lot of shit, but at least you had the balls to do it in freaking chat, and we were able to actually turn it into a conversation. So thank you for doing that. And I have no problem with people who disagree with me. Mark disagrees with me on everything. And,
Not everything.
well,
We do
most.
agree. We do agree occasionally.
Well, yeah, we do, but that's only because freaking me and you actually talk. We have a communication. You know what I mean? Most people can't do that. Like, Raph got all pissed off at me and freaking called me a woke ideologist or some shit like that. And this was like right before we were getting ready to do Tech Talk. You know what I mean? I'm like, oh my.
He might have been a bit extreme, but I can see his reasons for saying such a thing.
Well, the thing of it is you guys are you're so warped in the head, okay? Like with me, you're gonna get freaking unbiased shit. I'm not gonna sit there and try to tell you freaking that your freaking socialist freaking agendas are correct when I know damn well it's not. I've done research on freaking this shit.
How many times
I
have you
know, I know.
determined
I
people to
know.
be
Look,
Nazis and
look,
far
look, look,
right?
dude. Look, dude. When you're trying to throw white supremacist propaganda at me,
Again,
I know.
precisely.
I
So yes,
know.
you are just as guilty of this.
You may not know freaking that you're doing it, but I do. Okay, I know. I can tell you about the pogroms that freaking took place in Russia, freaking that the Russians were freaking doing. I can tell you about the genocides that happened before freaking World War II that nobody wants to
Yeah, I
talk
can.
about. I can tell you
I've looked.
how I can tell you how the Jesuits were the ones who endorsed those freaking pogroms. Okay? And these go all the way back, dude, for well
Yeah.
over freaking 1600 years. And I know all about them. So when you talk to me about this shit, I know where it's coming from. Okay?
Yeah, but you have your own perspective on it, and sometimes
No,
you may not be as objective as you could will be.
I call
That's the thing.
people out when they freaking do it because they know they're doing it or they are unable or they just don't know that that's what they're doing. They're spreading this shit and they have absolutely no idea where this shit came from. They're just saying what they've learned because they've gotten on these quote unquote alternative media sources. Okay.
Yeah, again, you know myself, I'm fairly open-minded and I'm a bit of a historian myself, so
Yeah.
I can back my information, or I can back up what my points with actual fact and
Right.
historical data.
And Svetlana brought up a good point too. She said that freaking ideological subversion is on both sides, which is the left
Mm,
and the right. And,
agreed.
and like I said before, I believe that the left and the right by itself, the term is actually a socialist freaking thing, because that's when the term first pops up. Before you had the Tories, you had the frickin' the Tories, then you had the conservatives, then you had the Republicans, then you had the Federalists and all of this shit. And then all of a sudden it becomes the left versus the right.
Well, you can make that argument about coming out of the Frankfurt School. But again, I've always said, and mentioned this to you on plenty of times, that I do not like the left-right argument because, again, extreme socialism is extreme socialism is extreme socialism. Just two sides of the same coin.
Mm-hmm. Well, that's exactly what the deal comes down to. You know what I mean? Because freaking it just, and later on, I think it would probably be a good episode to freaking actually talk about a lot of the stuff that was brought up. You know what I mean? But I want to do that at a later time on. Maybe I'll do it on live with Roger Hansen, because I said
Hmm.
I'd bring up some topics. And this, like I said, is going to be our last episode for this year on Untethered. We will be back next year. It looks like we were able to survive without killing one another.
Just.
Yeah, Mark's head did not explode, but I do have to let everybody know his head almost did explode on Nancy Planetta's show last week with DK
Oh, this
conspiracy.
week, yeah, just 2 days ago.
Yeah,
Yeah, especially the after show
yeah.
thing. Yeah.
I was so excited, dude. I was like, dude, his head is going to freaking explode. And it was like, I even said it because Nancy had some issues with her freaking surgery, and they had to let me take over for the last part, and Mark freaking started freaking out in the commercial, and all of a sudden the show starts, and I go, dude, it is so amazing. I almost saw Mark Edworthy's head explode.
I could feel my pulse racing, that's to say.
Yeah. So that was good that it happened on that show, and it did not happen
But
here.
no, but my head stayed on my shoulders. It stayed on my neck, so
So we
didn't completely
so
succeed.
we survived. Um, we do appreciate Svetlana getting involved in the chat and bringing up good conversation. She has shitloads of stuff that she wants to talk about. So if you guys want to have the conversation more, come over to D Live. She is in the D Live chat. She would be more than happy to talk to you. We would uh, like to say thank you to Svetlana for being here on the show. Also, I'd like to do another shout out for the Great Conspiracy on Kick. And nobody else wanted to hang out with us losers. So we do have 5 people who are watching on X. I'd like to say thank you to those guys. We have I believe we have 2 viewers on Rumble Premium right now. No. So would like to say thanks to everybody who showed up. Before we go, Mark, you want to give everybody your information, how they can find you?
Okay, yeah, I'm just on Minds, so minds.com/Medworthy.
Okay. And you can find me on X as Roger Hansen at ROGLOL1973. You can also find me on Minds as Roger_Hansen. I usually don't give the information out, but I'm like I get so upset with mine. It's pathetic. As well as that, you can find me on Teams under Live with Roger Hanson, and I am on Elements at Live with Roger Hanson as well. Besides that, I have a Discord channel for the wonderful world of weirdness, as well as Gaming with Infamous, and that's for my strange, weird stuff, and as well as my gaming channels. So you guys can check me on those platforms, VoIPs, whatever the hell they are. Yeah, and with that, I think this would be probably the best time to frickin' give it up. We have like 1 minute before 4.5 hours, so I can sit here. And
Technically 3 hours because the first hour was just a disaster.
well, there was still good stuff in there. I don't know what the good stuff was, but it's in there. Yeah. So basically we are at 3.5 hours, 3 hours and 21 minutes officially with Kick, and we are streaming from Rumble, Premium, Kick, YouTube, X, Twitch, and D
Well,
Live.
technically, we're not streaming from YouTube.
Now Svetlana, she, I believe, has her own channel too. If she doesn't, then I will promote DK Spiracy on D Live because she really likes DK. So for Svetlana, I will tell everybody to go check out DK Spiracy 123 on D Live. Also check out The Great Conspiracy on D Live as well as on Kick. And I don't know for sure if he has any other platforms, so I'm not even gonna try to go there. And I believe that I have covered that 1 minute so that we can actually have a stream that is a 4 hour and 30-minute stream of nonsensical shit, bad stuff that happened on that hour. So.
Some of it made some sense.
Yeah.
Some of it.
This actually almost caused me to want to freaking go out and do some cocaine, dude. Just fucking, just go out and do it. I was like, fucking goddamn it.
Only because of the technical issues of the first hour.
Yeah, the technical issues was horrible. So with that, I'd like to say thanks to everybody for watching. Please, if you enjoyed this show, like, subscribe, share, make comments. Make comments in the comment sections, guys. You do not understand how important that is to a channel. It's just as important as if that you worry about the algorithms. When you have comments in the comment section, it shows the platform that you do have an active channel. And that helps out a lot, believe it or not, it really does. So if you want to help support the channel, make a comment. You know, it doesn't have to be feedback or anything. It could be just saying hello. You know what I mean? Have a conversation with us. I always respond, so, or I try to. If you know what I mean. If you're a troll, you're not going to get a response. You'll get kicked off. That's just all that there is to it. And don't try to sell me 10,000 views. Other than that, man, we're good to go. So I will talk to you guys later. I hope you enjoy your day, your morning, your evening, your afternoon, whatever the time of day is. And we will talk to you later. Say bye, Mark.
By Mark.
There you go. All right, so here we go.
Wow.
We got it. That was actually cool. I am so glad freaking we did not have to talk about Trump, dude.
Yeah, I was expecting you to go into real tirade.
I'm sick of fucking Donald Trump, dude. I really am, and it's I'm actually to the point now where I have to freaking avoid talking about Donald Trump because I get angry. And
Yeah. Didn't really. I was just going to make fun of point four, actually. The so-called romance, and I was thinking, what are we doing? If we wanted that information, I would go and buy a Jane Austen book or something.
well, the bromance is gone, dude. You know what I mean? It's like
It's not relevant in reality. It's just tabloid news.
it's very irrelevant, dude. Like Doge,
Tabloid
Doge,
ministers come and go all the time.
Doge is the only program that freaking Donald Trump has even put into freaking play that would have made a difference. Okay,
It's still active, isn't it?
it
Technically,
is, but who's fucking running it?
a civil servant, a minister.
This is not going to be good.
Well, God, are these things ever good? I mean, Reform is talking about if they come into power in the UK, they're talking about such a similar sort of action. But yeah, I don't know.
I think it's going to be a good thing if they do it, to be honest with you. I mean, I'm not going to lie. I think that that would actually be a good thing. I hope they keep it going here and they freaking thin it out.
It's only good if there is a large private sector employment sort of or recruitment sort of thing going on. Because if you're going to have all these civil servants being fired, where are they going to go?
They can go to hell.
Eh? If they cannot get private sector jobs, then they're going to be unemployed, aren't they?
They can go to hell, dude.
They can't go to hell.
Yes, they can.
There's still people that are there.
Bastards. They don't fucking deserve their government office jobs.
I know there are good civil servants out there. I'm not saying not all civil servants are bad. Of course, you're gonna have like anything. You're gonna feel bad, but you still gonna have good people out there.
Good people. Yeah. That is.
Not all civil servants are evil bastards.
Well, we have a program here called the Department of Motor Vehicles, and let me tell you something about these people. Okay, these people, they get freaking not only Saturday and Sunday off and holidays, government holidays, but now they get freaking Mondays off and Fridays. So that means they only have to work Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday, 3 days out of the week. And guess what? They get a freaking salary, dude.
Half the problem is unionization and how unions have been. I did tell you about a bill. I think mentioned it last week. A bill that is in works in the UK about allowing unions to forcefully enter private sector companies.
That's crazy.
Yeah, unions. Remember, unions these days are not there to aid the employees. They are more there to actually promote political parties these days.
Mm-hmm. Now, I do want to mention something to you too. I may have two good interviews coming up. There's a guy by the name of Jiva that's been working with Rapid, and they developed that game. I should be able to get him on as an interview for gaming, where he actually developed the game.
Cool.
And then I have another.
Actually, that entire interview with Rapid sort of died death.
Yeah,
Didn't happen.
yeah, I know.
Uh,
Now, there's another
and the other
one. There's another one too that I might be able to get. It's a guy that he goes by the name of Zira, and
okay.
he's been in the radio industry over in, I believe he's in New Zealand. He might be in Australia. I'm not sure, but I'm thinking it's New Zealand. And I was thinking if I can get freaking Mark Wojcik to come in with us.
Yeah. I was just thinking that if you can get those two bands up each other, that'd be good.
And then have frickin' me, you, and Mark, like a round table.
Yeah.
For the thing, it'd be pretty cool. So if you want to do, I'm gonna reach out and see what Mark says. And we should be. I'll see what.
Okay.
It sounds like Zira is interested in it, and so.
I did mention that Thursdays may not be a good time, but a contract backed out on me quite recent since I mentioned that. So Thursdays may be okay. I was just thinking the other day that if I did get this contract, because I've been doing Wednesday nights and then I've got an entire day on Thursday busy, then Thursday evening is going to be a massive killer for me. But that doesn't seem to be a problem.
Okay.
That doesn't seem to be a problem at the moment.
And I can work it according to schedule live with Roger Hansen too, because like I said, Zira is all the way over there. So I mean, I'm gonna have to work on.
Where is he? Sorry.
He's either in New Zealand or Australia. I'm not for sure.
Okay.
And if I
As
have
long as it's not as crazy as our other friends from that part of the world.
yeah. Yeah. Well, Zira, he's actually pretty legit, pretty cool. So,
Okay.
He's not into the whole like esoteric stuff and everything like. So, I'm gonna go ahead and get off of here, and I will talk to you in a little bit. Okay? I just wanted to fill you in on that stuff and see what you'd be up to and things of that nature. So.
Yeah, as far as I'm concerned, at this present moment, Thursdays should be okay. I was just thinking of sort of if I'm on stream into 5 a.m. on Wednesdays or Thursday mornings, and then I've got an entire day on Thursdays doing stuff, and I'd be bloody dead before you start.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah, but no, it's not a problem at the moment. I'm concerned.
Now, are you wanting to do Roger's real-time talk show with me too?
I did the last load, didn't I? So
yeah, because we're gonna be covering Europe this time.
What's the difference between the Thursdays and Friday stream? Because I think they are going to be overlapping, aren't they?
Well,
Subject matter.
Live with Roger Hansen is more open to everything, whereas Roger's real-time talk show is more about historical politics. You know what I mean?
Okay.
So we can go.
So there will be some overlapping, but it won't be.
Won't be too much, yeah.
Yeah.
We have more. We're more controlled in Roger's real-time talk show than what would be in live with Roger Hansen. So.
Okay.
So, like we
Makes sense.
you know what I mean? It's more structured, is what I should say. So.
Okay.
I will.
Excuse me.
I will talk to you later. All right.